Now joining me is my old friend from The Ringer, Kyle Mann. What up, Kyle?
What's going on, man? Long time no see.
I know, likewise, man. It's what a day for us to record. We said 2 p.m. on Sunday. KD gets traded at like 12:40 p.m. on Sunday. Just talked with John Gambadoro, from big Phoenix radio host, and we talked about a little bit on both sides. But Kyle, before we get into some draft stuff, I want to get your first opinion. I have not thought at all. What should the Suns do with the number 10 pick? They get the 10th pick now, week of the draft. What's your first gut feeling? What should they be targeting here with the 10th pick?
Oh, man. I mean, the kind of theme that I had been sticking with for them in the, I guess, what is it, 23 that they have? Or no, it's later than that. I'm bad with the exact numbers. They're later first that they have. I was thinking, for a team that is fully
29,
bound up.
29
yeah.
they have.
Fully bound up and without options to sort of bring talent in, I thought that they should go for, they're in need of some stability going forward, and they need to, I figured my logic was they need to draft an adult. So I had them taking Ryan Kalkbrenner there because I think Kalkbrenner is going to be a high floor, a stable guy. He's probably going to play mostly drop coverage, but he has roller gravity. He makes layups. It's a simple proposition. That's what I would say about him, but I think it's a stable one. And then, but with this 10th pick, I think they can still keep that mindset with 29, but with the 10th pick now, I had Houston taking Noah Esenge there because, Esenge has such a wide range of enthusiasts, and I'm on the skeptical side with him, but there are people who are genuine believers, and I think you could leverage that. That was my thinking if Houston were to push this through the draft, if it had extended through the draft, and they had waited, I thought that they could dangle him because of the believers that he has. But now that they have the pick, I'm like, I could see it going a number of ways. They could, I don't know that if you're thinking about, do you want to stack another guy who is a big athletic switchy wing guy who might have some dissonance with Ryan Dunn? I still like Ryan Dunn. Maybe you go with a Carter Bryant because he kind of fits with the shooters. Or do you go ahead and go for, you're talking about the stability. Now you have a chance to do an upside kind of a swing. I saw somebody suggest Yegor Dimon there. Dimon is another one who has wide ranges. But, he's somebody that does have playmaking upside. If he does get to be sort of an okay shooter, he could be a valuable, he's probably never going to be a primary. I'm sure we'll break out and talk more about this specifically, but generally I think they could maybe pivot and to have more of an upside mindset with that 10th pick. What do you think?
I don't know. And I don't know because they don't want to be bad. They want to be competitive. And so, they don't get either of their future picks back. They get their own pick back, the 10th pick, but not either of the future picks that Houston still has. Gambo says, and he's right about this, they want to be competitive. They want to be in the play-in. They want to just kind of straddle the middle now and then get good in a couple of years. So in that sense, maybe you're right about an upside swing. But I also think they want somebody who checks the helps us now box, not the Noah Esenge mystery box. Don't know what he's going to be. He could be a bust. He could be a superstar type of player. I don't expect that. Even with Carter Bryant, solid role player, probably in all likelihood, but I'm not so sure that he's going to be a guy who helps a lot as a rookie or in his second year. He's more of still a raw project. He gets in foul trouble at this stage of his career too at Arizona this past year. So I'm thinking a big still because I don't like the big man market for
it's awful.
Free agents. It's terrible.
It's really bad.
It's really bad in free agency. It's like maybe you go get Clint Capella at his age, but I don't know. I don't know about Capella necessarily at this stage of his career. So to me, maybe rather than getting the big at number 29, like I always had Kalkbrenner in some of my mock drafts in recent months as well. Maybe at number 10, you instead look at Derek Queen, Thomas Sorber, Maluach if he were to fall to 10, which I don't think he will. Like maybe you look at it big at 10, and then at 29, you instead take a guard, wing, forward type of player at that point. Because there are a lot of them at number 29 as well. Like maybe Drake Powell's there at that point. Rasheer Fleming, Jameer Watkins, like whoever it is, if you want to reach a little bit on a guy, a second rounder, whoever it might be at number 29, Noah Penda, right? Maybe go for Penda at 29. So maybe at 10, you go for a big, because I like the bigs available at 10.
Yeah. Yeah, it dependa on who's there. If you're gonna, if that was a great one, swish, Kyle.
Well, that's a good one.
I think that if they took Sorber, they could really disrupt the plans because OKC in San Antonio, I don't feel like Sorber's going to get past them. So I mean, if they find out that they do like them, but I don't know that San Antonio or OKC are going to be
Is
so
that
dug
intel?
in.
OKC San Antonio with Sorber?
That's been, I mean, I've heard that whispered from a few different places. As I understand it, San Antonio really likes him, and OKC does as well. So that's my
little
expectation.
too big action.
Yeah, probably back up big, I would imagine. Give them some depth. You could figure some. I think what's on the San Antonio side, yeah, you'd have to figure some things out in terms of spacing because he's not a spacer yet, but he is very switchable. I think Phoenix and Sorber is interesting. I don't know, but do you want to go ahead because do you want to take if they're not going to take keep Jalen Green, or if they are going to keep Jalen Green the way that I've heard?
Gambo believes they are going to keep Jalen Green. He said on the podcast they're going to get rid of Bradley Beal. Beal is either going to get bought out or traded to a team he's going to waive his no trade clause for. That's Gambo's expectation, and Gambo has been on top of everything with the Suns this whole offseason, as he always is. So if that is the truth with what happens, Beal gone, Jalen Green, Devin Booker front court. You got Ryan Dunn. You got now you have Dylan Brooks. You got Cody Martin. Like you got a number of wings and forwards. Royce O'Neal's still there. Maybe they try to trade him. Maybe they try to trade Grayson Allen, as I've reported they might look to do. But you still have zero bigs except for Oso, but he's not necessarily a long-term starter at that point. And Bol Bol. Bol Bol's Bol Bol. I love him, but he's Bol Bol. So
just as good as Wemby, right?
Yep. It's just as good as Victor Wembanyama.
Does all the same things.
Yeah,
he does all the same things. Tell me the difference.
75% of the way there. But no, I think a big for them at number 10 makes a lot of sense. Is there a preference you'd have for Phoenix? Let's say it is a big. Derek Queen, Thomas Sorber, one of those two. We'll eliminate Maluach because in all likelihood he'll be off the board at that point. Would either of them, would you be disappointed with Derek Queen there, or do you think that's a fine selection?
I mean, I would think that Queen would be, he'll give you something. I mean, Queen always figures it out. He has a way of figuring things out. I kind of wonder defensively if they're thinking about being, he would be a long-term play. If we're sticking with the upside swing, defensively, I think it's going to take him a little bit to keep his head above water in the NBA. But I think him with Booker and Green is interesting. I just kind of wonder if he's going to be there or not. Like Brooklyn is an interesting one for me with Derek Queen. That's where I have him going in our mock that's coming out on Monday, I guess, or tomorrow. So yeah, I mean, but I also like Sorber's upside. I think is pretty good, man. I mean, like I think that he's going to be defensively pretty good, probably earlier than Queen. I think that he's a good passer. Queen's probably is a more creative passer. I just think Sorber is going to be a winning player. So if you're keeping that mindset of like staying towards trying to get yourself to the middle in the near future, I think Sorber makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I love Sorber, and so for the Houston side of things in this deal, getting Kevin Durant obviously helps them now. They address a lot of the issues with the team, add a dynamic shooter, a dynamic creator, huge addition for them. What do you think is next for the Rockets? What are they missing at this point? Who should they be looking to flip? What should their priorities be after getting Kevin Durant?
Oh gosh, if you're looking at, I mean, in the offseason, my thinking for them was we just really need to add the quality decision making wherever we can. From the reaction on the Phoenix side, our friend Sam Cooper did not seem happy with the return. if I were in their position, I would have maybe wanted to get one of these guys who are viewed as more than winning players, like the Jabari or somebody like that. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of where my mind is. That's why I kind of repeatedly, I kept trying to drift away from, Yakachonis was a guy I'd had mock there. Just someone who can give them not necessarily a primary ball handler. I think we can kind of assume that the primary touches are spoken for Houston, but somebody that can up their quality of decision making as you go kind of down the line. So, yeah, I'm honestly pretty relieved to not be thinking about what they were going to do with that pick. I was so sick of mocking the Houston pick. I was just like, they're not going to keep it. I was like, they
Nothing
can't play
made
the
sense.
Yeah.
Nobody made sense. On my end of things, it's like you mentioned Yakachonis. I think in my mock I have going up tomorrow, I had him going to Houston as well at 10, but I'm like, I don't know. They didn't play Reed Shepherd at all. They're going to play him. It's just, I don't see it.
So, yeah, I mean, Yakachonis to me, like I said, he probably would be a bit like a rotation guy, like a late rotation guy for them. But yeah, relieved to not think about that one anymore. So I don't know. I mean, I assume another quality decision maker, whether or not that's a because they've got their switchability and everything, their rim protection. Do you think they need? Well, Steven Adams has been playing well for them. I'd assume it'd be one more ball handler decision maker. What do you think?
I think so. I think one more ball handler / decision maker, one more shooter as well. Now, what are you giving up to make those improvements? That's the tough question for me there. Like, do you believe Reed Shepherd can be one of those ball handlers, creators, and one of those shooters in his second season? He showed some major flashes in the second half of the year for them. He was outstanding in the G League. I'd like to see Reed Shepherd get those opportunities. Maybe he becomes that guy in his second season for them. So I think that's one possible solution for them. But going out and getting one other wing guy, like filling that Dylan Brooks, those minutes is kind of my thought is how do you fill those minutes? You're not going to fill that personality with who he is necessarily, but you get a bunch of dogs already. Amen Thompson is that. Tari Eason is that. Like in his own way, Şengün and Van Vliet are that. Like Dylan Brooks is Dylan Brooks, but they have a lot of dogs on that team. So I don't think they're going to lose their identity. Ime Udoka, their head coach, is a dog. So in a lot of ways. And so I think with Houston, that's the priority here is how do you fill those minutes, right? Like this whole team is full of dogs. And so I think for the Rockets, that's going to be the priority at this point is how do you use some of these future picks and or extra young players to make those improvements. Let's talk draft, Kyle. I want to talk draft, general draft. That's originally why we were going to record here. Number one question on my mind for you. Who's the player you worry that you're too low on?
Ooh, that's a good one. The guys that I've had a hard time like falling fully in love with, Nolan Traore is a guy. The guys that I've been lower on, Asa Newell is a guy that I've always had a hard time with. I mean, I've gone through, you go through cycles, phases of this where you revisit things and reassess, be like, what did I miss? Did I not account for things here? Murray Boyles is a guy initially that I was like, I have been dinging him too much. Like my faith in him figuring it out has kind of strengthened, I think, when I circle back. I've been lower on Rasheer Fleming throughout the process, and I did a circle back on him and confirmed my feelings. I was just like, every time this guy dribbles against the closeout, it is like, I was joking with somebody. I was like, if there was some supervillain that said, all right, Kyle, I'm going to decide your fate based on how this Rasheer Fleming closeout attack goes, I'd be like, well, it's been a nice life. I'm dead. You just can't dribble. And it's amazing if you look at his shot chart and his analytics and stuff, and you're like, oh, it's so clean. It's like, oh, he's switchable and he hits threes. And I'm like, man, there's one glaring weakness. The moment people make him bounce it, it's going to be a problem. And then Jace Richardson is somebody that I'm having a hard time with. I'll talk to people who have him in the top 10, and I'm like, he's 6 feet tall. Like, I know that he can shoot the ball, and I worry about, can you be more, if you're not going to be an electric elite playmaker creator, if you look at the way, like, even a Darius Garland runs into a wall in the playoffs, and he is worlds better as a shooter and a passer and a ball handler than Jace. He's somebody that concerns me that maybe I'm making a mistake being too conservative on, but he butts up against my philosophies pretty hard.
I think those are some good ones. For me, Yegor Demin is the one that I can't get there with. The shooting under 70% from the free throw line, doesn't have great touch on layups, floaters, 27% on dribble jumper twos, 24% on dribble jumper threes, 27% on catch and shoot threes. The first step, we saw him at times having trouble turning the corner, creating great separation, lack of burst off the dribble. I think he's going to be a solid player because he's 6'8", 6'9". He can handle. He's a magnificent passer. I think he's going to be a solid defender once he really grows into his own physically. But the shooting, the creation, I'm like, yeah, I'll take him in the late teens or 20s, but mid-late lotto, I can't get there with Devin. I know that's a guy you're a lot higher on than I am. Like, what are you seeing in him that I might not be?
I mean, I have him mocked at 19. He's definitely in the
Your
teens for
board,
me.
though, where is he on your board?
On my board at this point, I have him at 17.
Okay, so you did move him down a bit.
Yeah, it's you know me, I'm a little bit of a indecisive
You had him at
person
11.
in general.
11 on the current public
Yeah.
board, yes.
Yeah. I mean, the concerns that you're talking about are very real. I mean, there are some quality players there are a lot of guys in this class that have a high likelihood of one of their middle or high outcome becoming a reality in my point. So I don't think that that's total damnation of him. But if you look at his skill set, I mean, yeah, I've said this over and over again that he is the most creative processor of the floor and creative passer. But it's like, that's wonderful. But if you can't balance that with the threat to score, we see this with Josh Giddey, who had problems with this at times. I just think he struggles to score even more than Josh. Josh at least has paint game where he can get in there with his little runners, floaters, push shots, whatever it is. And he's bigger and stronger. Yegor has no choice but to get a lot stronger. He's going to have to become a pace player who can own his space on the floor. I feel like he was on his heels a lot. He was off balance a lot because of that, because of how skinny. And man, the moment Big 12 play started, I mean, the book was out. I mean, people were just getting him on. Ole Miss kind of was the first team in Providence, and he had a knee injury too, which hurt him. But yeah, the shooting, you see him shooting in the workouts, man, and it's just like, it's hard to believe it because we've seen so much, of those struggles against quality college competition.
Who's the guy you're higher on than anybody?
Oh man. I mean, it was LeBaron Philon when he pulled out of the draft. Yeah, let's see. Who have I bumped up recently? I've moved Penda up. I've moved Behringer up because I was rewatching a lot of the Behringer stuff, and I was like, this and everything that you hear about him, like the intel about his personality is great. And then I'm higher on Adu. I think Adu is just going to produce Adu Thiero, but he's still in the 20s for me. I'm just confident about he's just going to come in and he's the best rebounder in his position in this class. And then, geez,
was Carter Bryant on your board?
Carter was the one that I moved up. I felt like before most people that I was ahead on. So
I think he's still the one. I haven't seen anybody, at least publicly, on your board. You have him 6. I think that's the highest of anywhere that I've seen personally.
He's 8 right now on ours, but that's still high. He's going to be on the update. So yeah, I think he's going to be able to switch like 1 through maybe even 4 at times. Like, and he's strong and has good hands and he's a good athlete and he's a smart kid. I mean, you just listen to him talk about playing defense and stuff. And I bet on guys like that. So, and he's going to hit open shots.
Now, here's my thing. And I like Carter Bryant. I don't love Carter Bryant. And it's like, you kind of set it in the context of Rasheer Fleming when it comes to like attacking a closeout. Carter Bryant can pull up. He can do some of that. But in the half court, only 15.9% of his shots are at the rim. He does not get to the basket. He does not turn the corner. He is not a great finisher when it comes to those situations. So with Carter Bryant, I wonder, is he just 3-and-D perimeter guy who can pull up a little bit and can obviously hit open threes? He was on fire to close the season in the conference tournament and the NCAA tournament for Arizona. And he definitely is going to be a really, really good defender. But I just wonder, like, is there that next level with him for me to take him in the top 10 versus some of these other guys? Like, I think Carter Bryant is closer to late teens than top 10 in my eyes. Like, what am I missing there in your opinion?
I think he's shown more in terms, I mean, he's younger than Rasheer, and I think he's shown more to me in the past to make me think like, he could get to the point where maybe he can, I trust him to connect those dots more than I do Rasheer.
Well, I'm not saying Rasheer is bad. I'm just mentioning your point about Rasheer. Carter's his own player, but like with Carter specifically, I just don't know if he has that extra level as a creator to warrant the 8th pick for Brooklyn or the 9th pick for Toronto. To me, I think he's a lot closer to like Drake Powell and that level of prospects in the 20s or 30s than he is to some of these guys in the top 5, top 10 range, in my opinion. Now, I like him, but I just don't love him. I think he's gonna be a good role player. I want to make that clear. I just don't know if I see that level of higher upside.
Couple things. I think the shooting, I think it comes down to the separator is how much do you buy the shooting as opposed to I buy, if just using those two other guys as just a benchmark to separate here, because you have to look at it that way if you're going to rank him that high. I'd buy the shooting with Carter more than I do with Rasheer and with Drake. Drake's shooting I'm a little worried about. That's way more of a question mark for me. And also, I don't think you have to hold everybody to the standard of are they going to be a creator, because I think he's going to be able to, he's a smart enough cutter spatially. He's a great athlete. I think once you get him on a floor, he was playing with guards too that were had a little more scoring tilt to them. I just think I trust him to be that. I think that he's going to be, he doesn't have to become a creator. I don't expect him to become a creator. And that's fine. I think he's going to be, he can be a one dribble pull up guy. I think he'll be a transition athlete. That's fine. Whereas with those other guys, I'm less sure about that. I'm more confident about it with Carter.
I think for me, Cedric Coward, he's going to end up 7th on my board, is probably the one I'm higher on than most people, but a lot of people are also high on him at this point, similar to you with your Carter Bryant experience. Thomas Sorber, I have him ranked 10th. I have him ranked ahead of Derek Queen, ahead of Khaman Maluach. To me, I think Thomas Sorber brings the best of both worlds. He's not quite the level defensively as Maluach. He's not quite the level offensively as Derek Queen, but he's the best all around of those bigs in that range. And plus, I think he's really freaking good as a passer, man. Like, he's not like as stylish as Derek Queen as a ball handler and all that, but with what you want from a big man connective piece, DHOs, passing out of like a post up after sealing off a smaller defender, off the offensive boards, making the smart decision. Like, I think he does a lot of those connective things offensively, on top of the fact that he has a massive 7'6" wingspan, gonna finish with space around the basket. He can post up if necessary. That's primarily what he did at Georgetown. He can do that if necessary in the NBA. And then defensively, they were like 28 points per 100 possessions better defensively with Sorber on the floor. Like, he is just so good with his hands, intercepting those passes. Like, he's not quick laterally on the perimeter, but he's very agile in small spaces, and he has like elite hand-eye coordination, just a whoop, snatch balls, deflect them out of the air. And I just think he's really freaking good all around. And so that's why I give him the slight edge over both Derek Queen and over Khaman Maluach. Do you think that's an outrageous perspective to take?
No, I'm probably more worried about Maluach. That's another one that I would put in there. I definitely look at him and I'm like, I keep, you just rearrange and stuff. Like, you find yourself doing that, and Maluach will just kind of get pushed down in the rearranging. I'll be like, oh my God, Maluach is that. To me. He's at 16, and then I'll be like, how do I feel about that? I feel the girl trying kombucha meme where she's like, they're doing the faces. And I'm like, I can't. He is gigantic. I mean, right now, I have. Speaking to Sorber specifically, I definitely think there is a very likely world where he ends up being better at Queen than for the reasons that you're talking about. But the upside of the creation and the passing, I had to put him one spot ahead of Sorber for now. Maluach, I have it at 13. So yeah, I'm kind of with you and a lot of people think that's insane. So Danny Chow, my buddy that our former colleague, or your former colleague, he is higher on Maluach than I am, and that's one of the ones that I'm like, I worry about Maluach.
Now, those rankings in the draft guide, are they an aggregate ranking, you and Danny average, or are they your rankings?
They're mine. They're mine. But okay. Danny's, I'm sure he's going to put his out. So, and we talk, and I try to get input from that and stuff too. But yeah, I took ownership. So if they're wrong and they're bad, blame me. Don't blame Danny.
Is there a prospect that you're higher on now than you were at the start of the NBA playoffs, after everything we've seen with the physicality and the speed and Indiana and OKC advancing to the finals? Like, who are you higher on now than you were in the middle of April? Might be nobody.
Yeah, it's pretty tight. I try to think about those things throughout the year. The way that it's probably had the reverse effect. Like, the way it's been officiated has made me dig in a little more on what I was saying with like Jace and things like that. Like, those guys just get swallowed up. Yeah.
Because you have Jeremiah Fears, at least. Where is he going to be on your board?
That's one that I'm very, I've been lower. You speaking, that's another one that I've been lower on throughout the year. I have him at 21 right now.
Okay. And then where's Jace Richardson at this point then?
23.
Okay. So two small guards outside of the top 20, and a lot of people have them Jeremiah Fears, some people have him top 5. Most people have him top 10. Jace Richardson, as you said, some people have him like 10 to 14, others closer to the teens, a little closer to where you do. What is it about this postseason that has you kind of just shying away from them and saying, somebody else take him? I don't want him on my team. Somebody else can take him, and I'm okay being wrong if it happens.
It can be very tough just because you can have a dual thing going on. I had this going on with Phylon before he pulled out, where I was just like, I love him so much, but I'm like, the weak link thing that goes on in the NBA playoffs is so merciless, and it resigns guys unless you are. I mean, you just kind of, even Jalen Brunson, who's an elite, primary, people go switch hunting with him too. So it's just like, you have to be a certain level of incredible offensively to sort of cover for that. And that's tough. That's a really, really tough standard,
Look, I think it's true. On the flip side, TJ McConnell is his own outlier type of player with the energy and the defense that he plays. He's his own guy, undrafted to being a key player in the postseason for the Pacers. But for Jace Richardson specifically, I do think he's got a little bit of that dog in him. Like, I think he's got that grit, that intensity where he can lean into that in his career, on top of being a knockdown shooter, a guy who can make plays in the mid-range, who can make the right pass. And by the way, like, finished at an elite rate for Michigan State this past season. It's not like he was terrible. He's got all these quirky little flip shots, using English off the glass. With Jeremiah Fears, he's more of that traditional creator, like in the Darius Garland context of small guard. But Jace Richardson, I think he can be different things for you, even though he's only 6 feet tall. And so I think there's still
and
a
he's
role
the wingspan too.
Yeah, he's long. I think there's a role for small guys still. It's just the threshold is so high. Because like we see it with Garland on Cleveland. Like, there's a reason why they could be looking to flip him this offseason. As good as he was, as good as he can be, there's just something about being that tiny in the postseason that can be a limiting factor for your ceiling as a player. And so I've lowered a little bit on Fears after the postseason, and Richardson I'm a little bit lower on as well, but I still have both those guys as lottery picks. I mean, to me, like, the guys that I've been higher on is like Elijah Martin out of Florida. Mm-hmm. He's only 6'2", but he plays like he's 6'6".
He's an MFer, man.
Yeah, he is. Like, yeah, he just nonstop. He just keeps going and going. The speed and the tenacity he plays with, I just think like that's like the postseason. It's always more physical, but this year in particular, I think seeing the way Indiana played throughout, would just start to finish in these games, they are full throttle. They don't stop playing fast in fourth quarters. It's not always about the game slows down with them. Just the speed and the intensity and the physicality. To me, Elijah Martin, we saw it with Florida with their run. We saw it with Florida Atlantic as well before he transferred. The dude's an MFer, as you said. And I just think he's a winner, man. I just think he's going to be a winner. And so I've skyrocketed him up into the 30s on my board. I just think the dudes can play. And even if he's not like a knockdown shooter, and even if he's not a traditional guard, he can just makes a winning impact, dude. I mean, to me, that's the number one guy on my board that's probably risen the most.
Yeah, I've been very defensive of that Florida group because people have just kind of assumed that, they're reloading not to make this a college basketball thing, but more just a testament to how good those guards were, because Walter Clayton ties into that, obviously, because he was their star player. But Martin was a big part of it. And I just think whenever people have assumed that their bigs are your back and they're going to be awesome, but people have just kind of assumed that that's an easily replaceable thing. And Martin, has done it at 2 stops now. And Clayton is another guy, too, that I've just kind of, he is smaller as well, but his shot making, I feel like, is something that separates him a little bit, where I think that he's probably going to be like a late rotation guy. I've moved him up to 19.
Do we have the same rank? I think on my current board, I have him. Let's see. I'm pretty sure we might have the same rank for Walter Clayton. I've got Walter Clayton currently 19 on my board.
lockstep. I have the Heat taking him actually because I thought
Okay.
I was just like I just think that it could work. I've heard there's mutual interest there, so we'll see. The Heat have been obviously really mysterious, but I don't know. I could see them also like going for like a Will Riley and surprising us. I don't know. We'll see. He's one that I think is an interesting case because he was so inefficient in these specific areas. I don't have the exact number in front of me, but throughout the year, you're just kind of betting on. You look at him and you're like, he's got some like self-creation tools. He's obviously a big athletic cutter when he wants to be. We saw that later in the year. He's somebody that I think could be interesting because if he had come back, that like pre-draft conversation is always interesting with and with him, if he'd come back for a sophomore year, would he have been pushing lottery? I don't know. He's somebody that I think could be a nice value pick if it's around that 20-ish kind of pick right there.
Can you sell me on Danny Wolf?
Oh, easily. Yeah. What do you want to know?
Just tell me. I'm not saying it.
He is an elite passer for his size.
Yep.
I see his shot. I think that he overall made Michigan a better basketball team when he was on the floor. I think that he is more physical than people think. I think some of the erraticness, and if you see the turnover percentages, I don't penalize guys for breaking eggs when they're making omelets. If it's, Trae Young has had a high turnover percentage or a high turnover rate at times. If guys are being very creative, I don't worry so much about that. Yakachonis had that at different points this year. I think if you're going to ding him, you're going to say, okay, maybe I don't believe the shot is going to be there. And then you're just sort of this, you're this big forward who can't leverage his strength, but or he's about 6'10", 6'11", I guess. But I do believe in his shot. Like,
Why?
the positive.
How come? That's where I'm not connecting there. In his career in college, 64.6% from the free throw line, 33.6% from three, very up and down, very inconsistent. Where is your belief versus my lack of belief?
Well, he was 71% last year at Yale. And if I look at his shot, 34.5 to me feels like a more indicative number for him. I just feel like his shot's going to get to the point where it's good enough. Is he going to be like jacking them all the time? Is he going to be, legit all the time stretch four? I think he's going to be a good enough shooter to get by. I think if you put him next to like a legitimate, big rim protector, which, they had in Michigan, I think the passing is special. I think he's more physical around the rim than he gets credit for. And I think if you take those two things and you believe in the shooting, which I do, yeah, I mean, that's enough. That's enough for me. I can see. I have him pulled up here. I have Danny Wolf at 12.
On your board?
Yep.
I can't get there, Kyle. I can't get there. I mean, I think this is one of those guys where it's kind of as you described with Jace and Jeremiah Fears, like having them in the 20s. They're not going to get to that point. So somebody else would take them before they're best player available on your board. But Danny Wolf, I'm happy to be wrong. Like that he's just that type of player where it's like, if I'm wrong, I'll live with the consequences and I'll still sleep, have a full night of sleep with Danny Wolf is how I feel with him as a prospect. I think he's fun. He's exciting. He's a joy to watch play basketball, like watching a near 7-footer handle the way he does and pass the way he does. He's just straight up fun. But I just worry too much about the shooting. And you're right, like what you said about the turnovers, like I think I'm a little bit more concerned than you might be. Sometimes I wonder, is it too much style, not enough substance with Danny Wolf? But he's undoubtedly fun, and I hope he's great.
Too much fun, not enough function, huh? I was gonna mention his assist percentages for his position are through the roof, and then his assist to usage 94th percentile for guys at his spot. So
no surprise.
He's and he's a little friskier, I think, around the rim as a help defender than people give him credit for. Same thing with Con Knipple. It's the white guy thing there. But I just think I like Danny Wolf, man. I think it's going to work. And I just watch him shoot a basketball in a vacuum. I know that's an old school scouty thing to say, but I don't think it's broken. I think he can figure it out. We've seen worse shooters do more with less. And I think he has a good enough foundation that I feel good about it.
Last question for you. Where's Ace Bailey ending up on your final big board?
I'm going to spoil the whole thing. He's at 6 right now. I'm getting ready to send it off. So we'll see if that changes. That is more me betting on I feel like the middle outcomes are higher for Khan and VJ and Trey for me. Like I feel like the simple idea of what Trey is going to be, I know he's going to be a movement shooter if he buys into that. If he gets in his head, he's going to be, I have to be a primary pound the ball a lot kind of guy. That worries me. But if he just takes the course of trading on what works for him, good. Ace, though, that's, to use that as a springboard for Ace. I was saying this to Zach Lowe, that if we're reading the tea leaves based on what his camp is saying about what he wants in his development, that concerns me a little bit. Steve Peichel was on with Russillo and was saying that he thought he was a good passer and read the floor a lot. I was like, I understand why you would say that if you coached him, but I watched Ace and, it was kind of, granted that Rutgers team, he had to score the ball, but he also could have made them a better basketball team by passing it, whenever he drew 2. So it's just, I have concerns about that. Right now he's at 6. He absolutely could be an elite. If he wants to be a shot maker and a switchable defender, he could become that. But, at this point, that's a representation of my confidence in that.
Kyle, appreciate you joining me today, man. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.